between running the business bootstrap, COVID, you name it.
Yeah.
Like it was rough. Like for any entrepreneurs, I needed a break. The way my co-founder and I kind of came up with the idea was we were hiking in Griffith, and by the time I left, she had texted me, "Let's build something." And I said, "All right, let's do it."
I love those friends.
You can't go on a hike with some people without knowing. You're like,
Never
do I
just
want
a
a new
hike.
business right now?
We had the concept, had the idea. We went out for VC funding the week Silicon Valley Bank collapsed.
If you're not thinking about bringing in money to help you really scale, you're not serious about scaling.
When it comes to venture capital specifically, early stage no longer exists. You're like, do you have 2 million in revenue? And you're like, that's early stage?
Yeah.
That's when.
Yeah.
There's this misconception that I need venture to be successful, and you don't.
When would someone know that it is the right time to consider taking outside money in terms of helping them grow?
So the way I think about it is
Jaclyn, welcome to the shows. You're actually on 2 shows today.
How efficient of us. This is very us.
this is perfect.
Earn Your Happy and Powerhouse Women. And we actually had you booked separately back to back. And Lindsey and I were like, what are we doing? Why don't we just interview her together? Not only for her sanity, but we also really love a good threesome.
A good girlfriend moment.
Girls' night. Let's do it. I'm so excited. I thrive in this energy. So
We
I'm so
figured.
excited.
We figured it would be it was a surprise to her when she walked in. We're like, you're actually going to do a double here. I hope you're good with that.
I'm in.
I'm so excited to talk to you again. You've been on the show a couple times, maybe 3. I don't know.
I was like, when was the last time? Probably a long time ago
been
now.
a bit. I think so. Which there's been so much that has happened since I have last had you on the show. And
Same,
I know, for Lindsey as well. If you could just give us a little update, and we're going to dive into all of them, but give us an update on where you're at currently right now, what you're working on, what you're most excited about.
Yeah. So currently right now, I mean, there's so much to unpack in terms of what has happened, but I am co-founding a company called Cherub. Cherub is basically what we're jokingly calling Raya for deal flow. It's thanks. It's a dating app for angel investors and entrepreneurs. And really what we're doing is we're in the business of warm intros. So when you're raising capital, as you know, and you're going out for your friends and family round, it's a lot of sliding into DMs, messages on LinkedIn, cold emails that frankly oftentimes get unanswered or are uncomfortable or whatever. Maybe one hits. And the reality is for the fundraising process, it takes 27 months, costs on average $13,000, and it's a less than 10% pitch to close rate.
This feels accurate.
It's a thankless,
Right.
It's a thankless situation. And when you think about underrepresented founders, I mean, the stats are even worse. So when it came to Cherub, we were basically saying okay, I know amazing angel investors. I know you've raised money from angel investors. There is this group of people willing and ready to invest in entrepreneurs. And the reality is only 3%, less than 3% of accredited angel investors actually invest. And our view is that we don't think that's because they're not interested. We think it's because they're not getting deal flow.
Totally.
And so we tested this theory last year and had 1,000 people sign up to be part of it. And over $1 million was deployed to different brands through Cherub introductions. So we were like, I think this works. I think this is a problem we can solve. And so we are launching our beta in March of this year. And basically think of it as a dating app. You go on, you talk about your company and you say, I'm looking for investors that have exited businesses, that are women, that are located in California, whatever. And then we match you with the best investors. And on the investor slide, you can say, I'm interested in female founded companies or CPG brands or AI, and we'll match you with those companies. And so you'll get fed your highest percentage matches. So that's Cherubs. I've been working on that for over a year, which is very exciting. Also bought back Create and Cultivate. So in 2021, I get all post 2020. So
I know, it's just a blur.
It's a blur.
Such a blur.
In 2021, I sold a majority stake of the company to private equity. Shortly after that, I stepped down as CEO, and then really kind of took a big step back from the company. I was on the board and obviously hosting the podcast and was at events, but day-to-day running the business was not part of it at all, which was interesting. I think much needed on my end. You know, I'd been running that company for 10 plus years, running myself into the ground really, and took a moment to step back and reflect. Went through a lot of personal and professional changes. So I ended up getting a divorce, which happens, which is all good. It's all
I only just put that together recently.
Yeah. No, people are very confused still. And it's fine. We're friends. It was a 10-year run, very successful. It was like the business and the marriage, but it really was. It was a personal and professional kind of identity crisis where you're like, wait, I've been married for 10 years. I'm no longer married. I've been the CEO of Create Cultivate for 10 years. I'm no longer the CEO. Which is weird, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of a weird path to navigate, but I actually really enjoyed taking a couple years off and obviously doing projects like Cherub and investing and coaching, but waking up and not having 4,000 emails and just kind of gardening and cooking and figuring out what my next step would be. And I realized in doing that and kind of getting back into the mix, I really missed it, but I wasn't dying or clamoring to get back into it. Obviously, at that point it was run by private equity, the whole big, thing behind it. And basically end of last year, so 2023, an opportunity came about to sell the company. And for whatever reason, I was in that meeting and said, I want to put my hat in the ring.
Wow.
And I didn't even I hung up and I was like, what did I just do?
That was like one of those things you blurt out and it catches up
afterwards. And I kind of panicked, obviously, as you do. And was basically I know I can't do this on my own. I had started the Blueprint Mastermind with Marina Middleton and Allie Webb. And Marina and I had a great working relationship, very different styles and whatever. But I called her after and I said, this is insane. I just want to preface this, but I'm thinking about doing this. Would you want to be a part of it in any way, shape, or form? And she was like, I'm all in, let's go. And the next thing we knew, we had, a million lawyers later, but, we had closed the deal and gotten the company back. And so now we're Create and Cultivate 3.0, I guess, which is so exciting.
Whoa. Wow. Okay. There's so many elements of this I can't wait to dive more into. Since we're on that topic of events and that, you set the tone. You were the pioneer in this industry. What has you excited about getting back into an events-based business? Or is Create and Cultivate going to evolve and not just be events the way we know it now?
Yeah. Oh, I love that question. So yeah, when I started, there was no one knew what a flower wall was, right?
Yeah.
It was not a thing. And now cut to, there's so many amazing events and so many cool things. So that means a lot that you said that. So thank you. But yeah, so it's interesting because one of the things I really loved was twofold. Was one, doing the Blueprint Mastermind, I got to meet all these women that were they weren't the Create and Cultivate girly, but they were doing 5 to 10, 15 million in revenue in their businesses. So a little bit more graduated in that way. And I had such an amazing time doing that mastermind and learning. And what I realized was we hadn't caught up to the consumer. When I started Create and Cultivate, I was blood, sweat, and tears producing those events, building my business, and really was alongside our girls. And now, what I realized is taking a step back, we're coming back and looking at the life stages of entrepreneurship. So I'm clearly I'm at the tail end of mine in a lot of ways, right? I've built companies, I've sold companies, I've invested in companies, I've bought back companies. So I've had this whirlwind experience as an entrepreneur, 15 plus years in the making. So, going to Create and Cultivate as I'm launching my business is so different than where I'm at now. So the programming that we're going to roll out, and it is going to be very event heavy, is going to be specific to the life stages of the entrepreneur and what we're calling from launch to legacy. And so that's really going to be the focus. Because I think Create and Cultivate, the magic of it is the community, right? Everyone gets to come together. But when it first started, it was kind of the beginning of women starting businesses, because this is 2011. Obviously women have been starting businesses forever, but that movement was really around them. We've come so far, so much has happened, but now it's time to kind of catch up to that narrative. So back in events, experiential 100%. So that's our real focus. We're going to summer of 2025 launch what we're calling Coachella for Career Women.
Amazing.
So fun.
It's exciting. So it's going to be the largest festival for ambitious women. It's going to be here in Los Angeles, and it's going to be multi-day musical performances, panels, workshops, one-on-one meetings, all sorts of craziness. So yeah, we're well, let's go balls to the wall.
Literally can't wait. I literally can't wait. I'm thinking of my outfit already.
I picture you in your garden just having that moment where you put the hoe in the ground and you're I'm going back.
This hoe's going around.
I just grab my little dog and get in my car and hit the road. But truly,
Legally Blonde style.
Exactly.
It's
hard.
So exciting.
Yeah.
It's cool to hear how, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that, the value of taking that step back away from your business, whether that's someone who wants to follow in your footsteps and step completely away? Or just what did that season teach you when you were able to now come back with a fresh perspective?
It was so eye-opening. I think I had always been, even before Create and Cultivate, I'd run my first business. So I've been, knee deep in entrepreneurship, which is all consuming, as we all know. And in a good way too, right? Like you're having so much fun. You go to dinner, it's work. You wake up, you're emailing, it's work. You're on stage, it's work. Like, but it's exciting, and you're building it, and you're doing all those things. After selling the company, it's like I had done the thing that I had set out to do. Like, and I had that moment, and I kind of like, when I took a step back, I think like one, it was like washed over me everything I had done, which I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs don't do. Like you don't celebrate your successes and wins, or really pause, because you're just like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
So that was a really nice feeling where I felt really good in that sense. But I also felt like a massive hole. It's so odd, especially because I think, and it was very different than selling my first company, which was a marketing agency. This was a community. So it's like you kind of walk away from a community, which I wasn't prepared for. And two is like the reality of everyone still thinks you run the company. So it was kind of this constant thing of like, letting it go and putting it in the hands of really smart, capable people, and kind of taking a step back and realizing like this isn't mine anymore. And then meanwhile, everyone being like, I didn't love that social post you were like messaging you, so you're still like getting it.
Yes,
which is kind of it's a weird feeling. Or like I just applied for this job, and it's like, I'm not the person, but like, but I also felt sad about that, like, because I also felt so tied to the brand. But what I took away from that moment was like, who am I outside of all of this? And like, what do I like? What do I enjoy? And how do I get back to like taking care of myself? And so I really spent a ton of time. And like, you guys will appreciate this. I remember the first time I went to like the grocery store on like a Tuesday at 1 p.m. and it felt like an out of body experience. Like I was like, I'm just nonchalantly shopping
like
at Tuesday at 1.
Luxury.
I'm not back to back on calls. Like what? Like no one cares where I am or what I'm doing. Like this is so exciting. Like, and I truly like was just like, I'm going to make a home cooked lunch for 2 hours,
wow,
and it was
so good.
I started drinking at 4. Like, listen, I was in the hot tub. I was like having an amazing time. And like, obviously reconnecting with like, what do I like? What, what do I bring to the table? Like, how am I thinking about it? But I also realized like I wasn't done, but I wasn't sure what was next. Cause I was kind of like, how do I top that? Like that was it. It was so amazing. And, I loved it so much. I was definitely burnt to a crisp when we sold it, between running the business bootstrap, COVID, you name it. Like it was rough, like for any entrepreneurs during this day. So I was like, I needed a break. But I always like, when people say like, take time off, don't quit, or that saying, where it's like, I think it's so true. It's like, actually just give yourself a break. And that can look a million different ways, obviously.
Yeah.
So what were some of the things that came through for you when you were asking those questions? Like, who am I? What do I like? How would I, what would the next thing be? Like, what were some of the answers that came? Because I know there's like hundreds that came, but what was the through line?
Totally. I love events. Like I love hosting events. I love experiences. I love thinking through like the moment someone arrives, so they leave, like what does that look like? I love programming, speakers, obviously, like pulling together the right people and the right panels, have the right chemistry. I love all of that stuff. And I knew that. The other thing that opened up for me was I joined Intro. So I don't know if you know that app.
Yeah,
okay.
totally.
So it's an app where you can like book different experts. And so I joined it and I did over that year, I think I did 150 intro calls.
Wow. You learned a lot.
Yeah. But I also loved talking to people. And basically what started to happen is everyone's like, do you coach? And I was like, I don't think so. I don't know. I was like, I can talk to you about this stuff and like help provide ideas and solutions. So I kind of got like in this world of like working one-on-one with business owners. And I loved that. I was like, it feels like not work to me. I enjoy it so much. And so kind of doing that, I kind of got back into the mix and like started having those conversations. And then the mastermind fell into my lap a little bit. So I got to flex my like event planning muscle a little bit, combine like the coaching stuff with it. And I was like, oh, this feels good. Like this feels right. And so, we've only done one of those. We have our second one coming up in April. But I was like, this feels like this community is so amazing. And being able to also see something at a smaller scale was really different for me. Everything we've done minimum is like 500 people.
Yep.
So getting to sit there with people who you get to hear their stories, what has changed, like what they've learned, how they've, I know all of them by name and all of their businesses and everything. But like that, I've never experienced that with Create and Cultivate. It's always just like, hi, thanks for coming, you know, like chaos.
Yes. Yeah.
Totally.
So it was such a good feeling. And so that to me like reinvigorated me. And then of course, like when this fell into my lap, I was like, I think we can combine both of these things in a really meaningful way.
Mm-hmm. You are such a genius also at, and I'm thinking even back to probably before the sale, I don't know the timing of it, but you've always been an investor. You're really passionate about helping women find funding, but being able to integrate the two as almost like this holistic system that supports itself. So having founders speak at the events that then you're also involved in those businesses, like you actually have like one of the most brilliant minds for thinking about the whole ecosystem. So how do you think about that for someone who's listening? Like, because there's such natural, I think there's a lot of ways, here's where I'm going with this, that all of us could expand upon our impact and just have like even more of an ecosystem than the one singular vertical that we're currently focusing on. And I feel like you have done that, whether it's intentional or not.
I'm like, listen, there's a master plan. No, it's not intentional
exactly.
at all. But I think like one of the things that kept coming up and that I think is the through line for what I do is that I help underrepresented founders, whether that's get funding, find the tools and, you know, tips and tricks they need to succeed, find a community, whatever it is, like that is the through line of every single thing I've done, you know, with Create and Cultivate, community access, opportunity, obviously education, you know, all of those things with Cherub fundraising, with the nonprofit I'm on the board of, specifically talking openly about founder depression. You know, I'm always trying to help in that way. And the way I think about it and the way every business I've ever started has come about is this is a problem that needs a solution. And I think that's really important when you're starting a company, because Create and Cultivate started because my first company was a nightmare. I was running it, making a ton of mistakes, like completely messing up as a first time entrepreneur. I was like 23 and I went online and there was nothing online for female founders. No, there was no content, there was no events, there, you know, anything was for corporate at that time. So I was like, this is an issue, let's solve it. And I didn't set out like, here's my business plan. I just thought like, let me throw something together and see if people care. Same thing with Cherub. Like we were like, there has to be a solution for this. Like why aren't angel investors getting an opportunity? And the way my co-founder and I kind of came up with the idea was we were hiking in Griffith. I had gotten an email about an angel investment that I thought she could be interested in. And I said, hey, I'm going to add you to this email. I was going to forward along if you're interested in angel investing. I thought it could be cool. And she's like, yeah, send me stuff. Like she's had an amazing exit. She went from a YP backed company acquisition to IPO. Crazy story. And she's like, you know, I can write checks and I'm also valuable. I'm a product engineering type person. So I can provide a lot of value, but like no one knows who I am. No one's going to put me on the chain. No one's sliding into my DMs. Yeah. And I was like, that's so interesting.
Totally.
Like, I wonder how many yous there are out there and what we're calling quiet angels. The angels who are well known, the Ali Webbs, the Candace Nelsons, you know, whatever, they get all the deal flow because everyone knows they're writing checks because they're public and promoting it and they have followers and all those things.
Right.
But there's so much more out there that is beyond Silicon Valley, that is beyond the influencers you see that have real value and can write checks. And literally we left. I was like, so I'll forward it to you when I get back. And by the time I left, she had texted me, let's build something. And I said, all right, let's do it.
I love those friends.
And I know this is what it is, right?
You can't go on a hike with some people without knowing you're like,
I'm starting a business.
Never
Do
just
I
a
want a
hike.
new business right now?
Exactly. So yeah, it really is like this, you know, it is become an ecosystem where I'm hopeful that like, you know, my lasting impact, like I said, from launch to legacy. And like, it's something I've been thinking about that I'm like, what do I want people to say about me when I'm not in the room? Like, what do you want people to say about you when you do retire? Like, what did she do? And I'm hopeful that it's, you know, exactly what you said.
Yeah. I'll say it to your face for now.
Perfect. I love it.
You work with so many different women. And I know that one of the main reasons why we don't go for things is obviously fear. I feel like with you, you've always been such a person who can just like, you think of something and you want to make it happen. What part of your brain, like how have you dealt with fear and how are you helping other women, because you must hear it all the time, like work through that initial fear of launching something new?
Yeah, it's funny. I never really think about that. But then someone said to me the other day, Piera from Refinery 29, I was actually talking to her, she's starting her new thing, but she was like, you generate so much, like how? And I think the reality is because I really believe in it. If I don't believe in something, you guys probably wouldn't hear about it. But because I'm like, oh, we need this, the world needs this, like I become obsessive about it and I'm just like, go do, figure it out. And the reality is like, you have to just figure it out. And like, there's so many ways. Like, I think the best example of this is like Angelina and I, my co-founder of Cherub, went out. We like had the concept, had the idea. We went out for VC funding the week Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. We were like,
oh my God.
Cool. Yes, brutal. So everyone's like, number one, we're not writing any checks. Number two, we're definitely not investing in like ideas. Like you need to have a product and like $1 million in revenue. And we're like, what? We literally strung together an alpha through an email list, through Bubble, through no code platforms. Like we figured it out.
Wow.
And from that, the $1 million was deployed to these different brands. And off that, we were able to raise over $1 million from angels ourselves. So like, no is not an option. Like you have to keep going and figure it out. And like, that's the risk you take, right? But the risk and the bet is on you. You know, so I think you have to just push past it if you believe in it enough and don't talk yourself out of it. Like I'm a huge 80%er, like get it 80%, get it out the door. Like don't sit and be like, well, should that comma be a semicolon? Because if it's a semicolon, like you can overthink to death. And the best founders and brands I know launched with abandonment kind of and said, let's see what happens. And I think that's kind of the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's literally the only way I've ever gotten anything out. And I think maybe as the stakes go up, my fear has been like, okay, well, if I put this out there, is there like a higher, you know, like risk with something else? But it's still, honestly, as I'm verbally processing with you, it's still the same because you'll never get it perfect because the amount of data that you need from other people in order to do the next iteration.
You need to get the feedback first. So, I mean, you can quiet launch stuff and see what happens and then go bigger. But like, I just think like you'll learn immediately what's needed. I think from the alpha that we built, like we learned that founders want beautiful data room. So like, you know, the data room is where you host all of your, you know, documents, assets for everything that you're doing when you're fundraising. Right now, it's like an ugly link farm essentially that you get to and it looks like that. We built these beautiful like investor tested data rooms. We're calling them like Squarespace, like plug and play style. And you can, as a founder, tell your story through video, tell your story through these compelling stats. Like everything is merchandised beautifully, which for CPG brands is like they're storytellers. That's how you sell products. So like, why would your data room look like a bunch of links? Like tell the story, you know, get it out there. So that was something we learned through launching that people were like, I really want this. And so we were able to build it based on that.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the fundraising side because, you know, I think there's this misunderstanding about like when funding is necessary and what it can really do for you. And for the most part, at least in my community, it is a lot of bootstrap businesses, which is beautiful. I've had that journey too. You've done both, but when would someone know that it is the right time to consider taking outside money in terms of helping them grow? What is that sweet spot?
Yeah. So the way I think about it is threefold. I think there's angel investment, which is a very different beast than venture capital. So when it comes to venture capital specifically, first of all, the market we're in is it's a really challenging time to raise money if you're early stage. Like early stage no longer exists. Like they're like, oh, we're pre-launch, you know, VC, we invest in early stage. They're like, do you have 2 million in revenue? And you're like, that's early stage?
Yeah.
Like, that's when. So this market is very rough. But basically what venture is looking for, and for the most part, and what you need to think about with your business is they want a 10x, sometimes more return on their investment. So even I remember like someone talking to me about venture with Create and Cultivate. Like this was a while ago, but she was like, you know, I was like, I just want to get to like 50 million in rev. And she was like, oh, like, don't say that in venture. You have to say, I want to get to like 500 billion in revenue. You have to be like, we're going to be the global. And I literally was like, I don't want to do that. I don't think that works or makes sense, but that's their mentality is how can this be the biggest, most profitable, revenue-driven, gigantic company like Uber? Like they want those game-changing, life-changing ideas and they don't care how you get there, but they're like, here's money to go figure it out. And it's kind of a bad system. Obviously,
and like that doesn't sound smart.
No, totally. Because like all the companies we know and love, Uber, Postmates, you know, DoorDash, Lyft, whatever, all these amazing companies bleed cash. They do not make money. But they were given blank checks and said, go figure it out. That doesn't really exist anymore. So now we're in this kind of, you know, macroeconomic environment where profitability matters. The business model matters. Like you really need to be able to be dialed into your vision and the revenue streams that you're looking to generate. So that's definitely part of it. I would say also like there is a lot of funds out there that are really great, that are really supportive, are going to bring a lot of value to you. And typically I would say those are boutique VC firms that are very specific. Like we only invest in like regenerative farming startups. Like we only invest in, education or femtech. Find those that fit your mold or your messaging or whatever you're doing. And I would go after those if you are looking for venture, because they're so dialed into what they're looking for that could be a much better experience than the blank check experience. I would say angel investing and taking on angel investment, or people call it friends and family, is so valuable. It's really about bringing people onto your cap table that have strategic value and that also are cutting you a check.
Totally.
And I think when I would think about that is when you have a solid business that's doing well, but you need help getting to that next level. And you know that there's an unlock with a certain group of people that could really make a difference. Like I kind of joke, like the angel investors we have in Cherub that have invested in us are like our best employees. Like they're the biggest fans. And they're like, did you hear about this? Did you know this girl? I'm going to introduce you to this angel. Do you know that person? I'm like, do I need to pay you? Like I'm so confused. Like they are so invested and passionate about the success of our business that they're invaluable. And they wrote us a check on top of it. That's amazing. So I think for small business owners or people who are at that level, like especially if you're working as a solo founder and you're kind of just like cranking and you own 100% of your company, maybe consider bringing on a strategic 10 angel investors at 10K each or whatever it might be that can really help build and grow your business and take it to the next level. So that's how I would sort of think about it. But I also would say like, bootstrapping, Create and Cultivate was because we were aiming for an exit. So like owning the majority equity was like the biggest thing that was on my mind and creating the most profitable business quickly. Would I like do that again, like in that way, bootstrapped? Probably not. It was really painful, but it was early days. Like, really this whole venture world kind of blew up in the last 5-6 years. So
yeah, that's so good. And I don't hear enough women talking about that, exactly what you just broke down. It was actually at one of Lori's events, her girlfriends in business events, Vina Jetty, who we love, she's an investor. And she basically said, like, if you're not thinking about at some point bringing in money to help you really scale, like you're not serious about scaling. And it just was, I feel like more women talking about how we can find the investors, how to think about using that money and really stop. It's like breaking this mentality of thinking we have to all be self-made.
Yeah, 100%. And also like, if you don't want investors, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Like, and if you don't want a $200 billion business, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Obviously we need like more of those that are women owned, but I think it's like, there's this misconception that like, I need venture to be successful and you don't. That's just not true.
Right.
But I think that's what the media really paints.
I love the strategic investor idea. I mean, even I can't tell you the amount of times, like now just literally like 2 weeks from actually having product out in the world, the amount of people, investors that I have talked to, just gotten strategy from, like that have helped me through like the hard times. I actually can't imagine if I hadn't done it without them. There were moments where I was like, oh my God, why did I do this? But it far outweighs that with the help.
I feel like people, mentioned the way that you raised as well all the time, like really strategic female, like that's so smart, the way that you did that. And I think more women can learn from that.
Oh my, it's been life-changing because honestly, bringing people in and knowing that when you do launch, which your app is so incredible for this, I'm even like, well, do I want to do a second raise with those people? It's gonna be great. Because it is your megaphones.
Yeah, 100%.
Like they're just a bunch of megaphones for them who can not only help them, but also be voices. Yeah. Which is incredible.
And the beauty of Cherub that I'm so excited about is our investors are all over the country. Like they're not LA, New York. We have New Orleans, we have Texas, we have Chicago, we have Alabama. Like quiet angels are out there and they're smart and they're like one of our angel investors and is on the platform. She's a startup lawyer. I'm like, who doesn't want her on her cap table? Like, come get over here.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, are you kidding? Like, let's get her.
Yeah, totally.
That's amazing. Okay, so I want to go back to the Create and Cultivate thing quick because you get a second chance at you being the person you want to be in that company in a different way. So what changes have you made and how are you going to show up in this company? Like, what are you going to be doing? That feels good for you.
So, well, first things first, I'm not the CEO. So that's like a big one. So thank God. I know, truly. So I'm the chief creative officer and obviously the founder. So Marina's taking on the CEO role. And basically like, I want to do the things I love doing, which is thinking about the events, the creative, the stages, the talent, the programming, like all of those different things. I've also, obviously, I've hosted the podcast by myself for, I don't even know, 7 years. It's like so insane. And so now we'll be co-hosting it. And like, again, having
so
like
fun.
someone to do stuff with, I think is such a different realm for me from being a solo founder for so long. So I'm excited. And you know, now I have 2 co-founders. I have my co-founder at Cherub, my co-founder at Create Cultivate. So it's nice. I'm basically able to do my like best and highest work at both companies without having, you know, kind of the day-to-day stress of like being the CEO, you know, on that side of things. But also like be a, you know, sounding board for them as well.
Do you think you could have done that right, like from the beginning, or do you think you had to almost like work yourself out of it or know that you didn't need to be CEO?
No, I was so deeply integrated into the business on every level, and also probably like the world's biggest control freak of all time.
I can't relate.
I'm just like puppet mastering like a psycho in the background. That like someone had to physically remove me from the office. Like, can you please leave? No, I think I had to. Like everything happens for a reason. I'm a huge believer in, and I think there's no way I could have stepped back and brought someone in and truly taken a step back, or at least come down from that like working high of so many years running it. It's hard to unlearn that.
Yeah.
And and even now I catch myself being like, okay, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for lunch. And I'm like, nope. Walk your dog, go get lunch, work out. Like, and I've told my co-founders, like, these are important. This is important to me. I have to date now. Like, what a nightmare.
Oh my God.
That's a whole other, that's like starting another company.
Yeah, totally. I know, literally. Like, help find I know, I was like, the Create Cultivate community, rally your brothers. Like, who is on?
Wait, we had Matthew Hussey on today.
Oh,
could just invite him back.
could have. Yep.
Wait, who's it?
He's like the #1 YouTube dating love advice.
Look, put me in.
He's taken, but he's got to have some connections.
I assumed he was like
It's
a dating.
recent. They're married for a year, so.
I'm just kidding.
I'm like, you said it, I didn't.
No, I'm like, who does the Bachelorette casting? Like, let's go.
Just great. We've got to have some context.
She said it here. Someone's
podcasts.
now going to get her on The Bachelorette, which
I know
would
who's
watch
listening.
It.
Oh my God, how fun would that be?
I don't have a contact for that, but I do have a casting director for Love is Blind.
Oh my God, I don't think I could do it.
Wait, would you do Bachelorette?
I would totally do Bachelorette. Like in 5 seconds.
Hollywood, call us.
Hollywood, call me.
I'm going to send this to Hollywood.
I was going to say, I'm now involving us
Hollywood.com.
in it. We'll be like the people you bring in when you get to like bring in your friends and get to, and we'll sit and
us
interview
just in the
them.
hot tub hanging out. They're like, you guys have to go talk to the guys.
I'll be watching you guys while you're in the hot tub. I'm like, I don't think he's for you.
It's a no. It's a no. Oh my God, I love that so much. But
This could be so
Love is
unhinged.
Blind, I'm the biggest fan. But I don't know.
No,
I don't
that one would
know.
be tough. That would be tough. That would be tough.
Yeah.
We're getting her
Okay.
to be Bachelorette.
Great.
This is so exciting.
I mean,
Number
this
one.
is amazing.
Okay.
What are you most excited about right now?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm really excited for South by Southwest, like Austin. I'm like,
For anyone who doesn't know, tell people what South by Southwest
South by is like this gigantic festival that happens in the city of Austin, and it has different verticals. It has digital technology innovation, and then it has music, film, all sorts of different, like, and they're week over week over week. So it takes over the city for like a month. And I've gone every year, and like Create Cultivate's always done something every year. We're doing a small influencer thing this year just because the timing was crazy, but we're launching a pop-up shop for Cherub where you can't buy anything, but you can invest in everything. So when you walk in the shop, it's really cool.
Smart.
There's different products everywhere. So think Kayla Gray, like for instance, like has this like beautiful display, and you're like, oh my God, this perfume is like amazing. And there's a QR code to go to her data room to get her top stats. It doesn't give you all the information unless she opts in to like have you look, and then you can invest. So we have so much programming. We're doing like mixers. We're doing a founder mixer with Founder Made conference. We're doing dinner. So I'm excited, and like also like so excited to get it over with, you know, like that's how you probably feel about all your events too. It's like I cannot wait. And I also cannot wait for the day after when I can just chill.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's equal. Both is totally equal.
Yeah.
So with Create and Cultivate, you want to be doing like events all over again. Is that what that's going to look like? So for everybody listening, how are they going to be able to be a part of that?
So we're launching soon, and we will have a lot of events this year, which we're really excited about. But our big one is going to be next summer. So sign up for the newsletter, follow us on Create Cultivate, all those different things.
I need to save the date now.
I know. You'll be the first to know. Don't worry.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
We want to have a podcast stage, so.
Oh, amazing.
So smart.
Yeah.
So smart.
We love this for all of us. We know how to do that. Well, I'm so grateful for you. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience?
No, it's just been so fun, like hanging out with you guys and growing up together.
I
feel like it's been years of podcasts and like watching what you guys have done. It's so awesome. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here. Let's go get some wine.
So grateful for you. And yeah, we are going to go get some wine.
It's actually happening.
I just want to I want you to know how much, just from all of our communities, how much you were the North Star for so many things. And you really are. I'm sure you hear it all the time, but maybe not. So you need to hear it again. Like truly a trailblazer that you just leap and you don't really understand what that's doing for all of us. Like
no
parachute, full permission for all of us. And you've always been so accessible for me, like so generous and so accessible. So grateful for you. And I'm just so excited for this. We're like, go girl, go. Because we know we get to go if you go too, which is just the coolest thing ever. So
it's the best.
Yeah. So grateful for you.
Fun.
Thanks,
and
ladies.
You guys, we will see you on our next episodes. Bye.